Monday, September 13th, 1943. The Germans had Altavilla ringed with machine guns, mortars, and armor, ready to smash the 36th Infantry Division. Its flank stretched thin, one blow from collapse. The only thing between them and that exposed flank was one 22-year-old Pittsburgh screw-up, a former gang member who spent more time in the brig than in formation. With his unit near annihilation, he crawled a mile to find German artillery until two MG-42s lit him up. That's when this 22-year-old corporal decided if the Germans wanted Altavilla, they'd have to climb over his corpse to take it. He leveled his BAR against Hitler's buzzsaws and took both out of commission. When 70 Germans pushed to flank the line, he stormed a stone house and for 12 hours turned it into a fortress, burning through a machine gun until the barrel melted, then a Thompson, then an M1 Garand, as each ran dry. Out of ammo, he ripped pins from 60mm mortars and hurled them like grenades. And as his unit fell back, the last thing they saw was him, in a shattered window, firing a bazooka. This is the unbelievable true story of the screw-up who single-handedly wrecked an entire German assault, Charles the Steel City Mauler Kelly.
Blessed be the Lord my strength, that teaches my hands to war, and my fingers to fight.
The hills of southern Italy were burning. Hitler's armies weren't retreating. They were counterattacking with the fury of veterans hardened on the Eastern Front. The Salerno landings had cut into their lines like a knife, and the Wehrmacht meant to snap it off before the Allies could dig in. Villages like Altavilla were hammered by German artillery, then swarmed by German shock troops and panzers. For the men of the U.S. 36th Infantry Division, one truth became clear within days of the invasion. There was no easy surrender in Italy. The 15th Panzer Grenadier Division had already proved it. These were survivors of the Russian front, men who had fought in retreat across the Donbass, leaving smoking ruins and mass graves in their wake. And in Italy, they earned a new reputation. At Bologna, more than 50 civilians were rounded up and shot in a quarry before the Germans blew it apart to bury the evidence. At Vallerotonda, whole families were gunned down, men, women, even children. By the time the division pulled back north, hundreds of innocents would be dead at their hands. They were ruthless, well-equipped, and feared. And in September 1943, they descended on Altavilla, determined to erase the American foothold before it could spread. Before he was a one-man army at Altavilla, Charles E. Kelly was just another kid from the wrong side of the tracks. Born September 23, 1920, he grew up in a crumbling shack on the north side of Pittsburgh, PA, with 10 brothers and sisters. No electricity or plumbing. The family shared a stinking outhouse with other tenants. Kelly hustled early, working as a paper hanger's helper for $10 a week. But the depression crushed any chance of escape. He wanted to be a truck driver. Instead, he drifted into gangs, roamed alleys, scrapped with rival kids. Pittsburgh cops knew him by name. By 1942, Kelly had nowhere left to go but the Army. He enlisted in May, cocky as ever. The night before shipping out, he mouthed off to the beat cops on his block, "I'll go fight this war while you 4Fs guard the damn vegetable wagons." 4F meant you flunked the draft, too weak or busted, and useless for Uncle Sam. But Army discipline hit hard. He hated inspections. His bunk was a mess. Boots never shined. More than once, he got hauled into the stockade. He even tried paratrooper school. Thought the tougher the better. But one visit to the hospital, packed with trainees with broken backs and messed up knees, he changed his mind. His peers branded him soft. Depressed, Kelly went AWOL for 3 weeks in Pittsburgh, flashing fake furlough papers. When the cops finally cornered him in an alley, they turned him in. Dragged before a court-martial, Kelly pleaded guilty. He was given a 28-day restriction and was fined 1 month's pay. Then he was shipped out to the 36th Infantry Division, a Texas National Guard outfit staging at Camp Edwards, Massachusetts, for overseas deployment. The Texans didn't care about his record or the time he'd spent in the brig. They were hard, cocky, and itching for a fight, just like him. They only wanted one thing: a man who could shoot straight and wouldn't quit under fire. For the first time, Kelly felt like he belonged, but he was still the unit screw-up. Wild, scrappy, and unpredictable. By the summer of 1943, the 36th was in North Africa, training hard for the invasion of Italy. The beaches of Salerno erupted in fire. The 36th Infantry Division came ashore under the full weight of German artillery. Mortars crashed. Machine guns raked the sand. Men dropped all around. Charles Kelly hit the beach clutching his BAR. He sprinted inland, diving headfirst into a drainage ditch as bullets snapped overhead. Weighted down with ammo, he nearly drowned in mud and slime. His BAR slipped under the water. He clawed through the muck, dragged it out, and spent half an hour cleaning it, while rounds chewed the ground around him. When he finally looked up, his squad was gone. Kelly pushed forward alone, still following the only order he could remember: keep moving inland. He vaulted a wall, slogged through vineyards, and walked straight into the firestorm. At one point, he saw German Mark IV tanks rolling up the road. Instead of running, Kelly dropped into a ditch and opened up with his BAR. The rounds sparked uselessly off the armor. The crews didn't even notice. The tanks clanked past, leaving Kelly cursing in the dust. By the time he stumbled into a U.S. position near a winery, he had wandered miles inland. Exhausted, filthy, and hungry, he dug himself a foxhole and passed out. When he finally rejoined his company, the men laughed. "Where the hell you been, Kelly?" To them, he was still the company screw-up. But within days, in the mountain town of Altavilla, Kelly would prove them all wrong. September 13th, 1943, Altavilla, Italy. The town sat high in the mountains, overlooking the entire Salerno beachhead. If the Germans held it, they could pour fire down and drive the Allies back into the sea. The 36th Infantry Division was under brutal pressure. German mortars and artillery tore into the hills. Counterattacks slammed into thin American lines. Whole companies were being chewed up and scattered. Late that afternoon, Kelly stepped forward. He volunteered for a reconnaissance mission, alone. His job was to slip out, find the enemy's machine gun and mortar positions, and mark them for the regiment. He crawled nearly 2 miles through open fields, hugging the dirt as rounds cracked overhead. Then, the murderous chatter of 2 MG-42s lit up, pinning him down. Any rational man would have turned back, but not Kelly. He leveled his BAR, just one infantryman with a Browning, against Hitler's buzzsaws, and opened fire. Somehow, impossibly, he knocked both nests out of action. When he staggered back to his company, he wasn't done. The Germans were massing for a counterattack, and that night, the fight for Altavilla would turn him from a screw-up into a legend. That evening, Kelly and about 30 men fell back into the mayor's house in Altavilla. Thick stone walls, 3 stories high, right on the town square. They dragged in crates of ammo, water, machine guns, even mortars. If the Germans wanted the town, they'd have to come straight through them. And they did. Mortar shells pounded the roof. German infantry swarmed the streets trying to rush the doors and windows. Kelly sprinted to the third floor, smashed out a window, and set up his BAR. He cut down the first wave in the square, mowing men into heaps until the barrel warped and jammed. He tossed it aside, grabbed an M1919 30 caliber machine gun, and raked the street again. When that jammed, he switched to a Thompson submachine gun, then an M1 Garand, and then a carbine. Weapon after weapon, Kelly fired until each one went dry. By midnight, the house was shaking with every blast. Casualties mounted. Kelly didn't stop. Out of small arms ammo, he grabbed loose 60mm mortar rounds, ripped the pins, and hurled them out the window like grenades. Explosions tore through squads of Germans clawing at the doors and windows. Kelly found a phosphorus grenade and turned the courtyard into fire and smoke. An incendiary round lit up the street like daylight. The fight went on for 12 hours. By morning, only 28 men inside were still on their feet. The order came to pull out, but Kelly stayed. As his buddies slipped into the alleys, Kelly shouldered a bazooka in the busted window and fired point blank into the advancing Germans. When the backblast knocked him on his ass, he dropped the tube, grabbed a BAR left behind by one of his buddies, and started picking off Germans darting in the dark, covering their withdrawal. Only after the others were clear did he try to slip out. But as he moved, a squad of Germans was already pushing through the back of the building. Kelly leveled his BAR, emptied his last 2 magazines into them, then he tossed the smoking gun aside and slipped back to American lines. By then, more than 40 Germans were dead, and the screw-up from Pittsburgh had become the one-man army of Altavilla. By the time Kelly slipped out of Altavilla, the German assault had been shattered, their advance halted, and their troops pulling back from the town. One corporal, written off as a screw-up, had stopped a counterattack that could have rolled up the 36th Division's flank. Word spread fast. On February 18, 1944, in a rest camp near Naples, General Mark Clark pinned the Medal of Honor on Kelly's chest. He was the first enlisted man in the European theater to receive it. To the Army, he was Commando Kelly. To the press, he was the one-man army at Salerno. But Kelly didn't get a ticket home. He fought on. At the Rapido River, he led 44 men across under fire. Only 8 made it back. At Monte Cassino, his company was shredded. And Kelly, now a sergeant, was the highest-ranking man left alive. After the war, he toured America with the Here's Your Infantry show, demonstrating weapons and selling bonds. For a time, he was a national hero. His story in magazines, his face on posters, even in comic books. But like so many warriors, peace proved harder than war. He bounced from job to job, struggled with money, battled alcohol, and his health broke down. On January 11, 1985, Charles E. Kelly died in a VA hospital in Pittsburgh. He was 64. At his funeral, riflemen fired an 18-gun salute, and a bugler sounded taps as the flag was folded and handed to his daughter. If you made it this far, thank you. My mission is simple: to preserve and share the stories of American warriors like Charles E. Kelly, a gang kid from the slums of Pittsburgh who went from the stockade to the Medal of Honor. These aren't just war stories, they're legacies. But legacies only live if we tell them. And in today's world, the algorithm doesn't always reward grit, sacrifice, and truth. So if you believe Charles Kelly's name should never fade, if you believe the world needs to remember the night one Pittsburgh screw-up held off a German division, then please share this story. Hit that like button. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Every click, every share, every comment keeps his memory alive. And if you want to help preserve the legacies of more great Americans, badass heroes like the Steel City Mauler himself, subscribe to this channel. Together, we'll make sure their names are never forgotten. I'm Matt. Thanks for sticking with me. I'll catch you in the next tale of badass American warriors.